Hello and welcome to From Dreams to Reality, a Business Tale podcast interview series. I'm your host, Jerry Cavella, and today I am joined by the amazing Ben Zettler, founder of Zettler Digital in Hackensack, New Jersey. Hey, Ben, welcome today, my friend.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Hopefully I can give some people some good insight to listen to today.
Yeah, absolutely. I see you have an amazing business with a really true niche, and I think that is wonderful. So, how about we kick off the conversation? Tell us a little bit more about you and Zettler Digital.
Yeah. So Zettler Digital is a business that I started, I'd say a few years ago. And we were talking before starting that, there's kind of two ways to answer, hey, when did you get started? Reality is I've been working with e-commerce brands on, consulting and running marketing for them and doing a lot of different things for 10 years. It became a full-time endeavor. What we do for folks is we help build their website, we help run their email and SMS marketing and run their advertising and social media. This kind of stems from my own background, having run all of these things for a large scale e-commerce company for about 5.5 years. And then also having started my own business on Shopify 11 years ago now, which is crazy. I know you're not supposed to date yourself on a podcast to keep things evergreen, but I was a sunglasses company that was store number 41,000 or so on Shopify. And obviously over the last 7-8 years or so, Shopify has grown tremendously and now touts millions of merchants across the world. So it's exciting for us, and we have a lot of fun doing it and working with a lot of different types of businesses.
Fantastic, fantastic. What I like to do, Ben, is just get to that moment where you made that move from working in more of a outside agency, working for a bigger business, and you said, "Hey, I'm going to do this myself." Walk us through that moment, and truly, what inspired you to take that step?
I think there's a couple things. One, and it's a sort of gradual build that for me happened over time. There wasn't necessarily one like watershed moment that said like, you know what, I'm going to quit today and this is what I'm going to do with my life now. It was very much the opposite of that. Um, Coming out of college, and you can see it behind me. There's a jersey for the University of Maryland baseball team. I worked for the team as an undergrad, and then after I graduated for a season, but it was just for a season. I always had a goal of working in sports, and that felt like, hey, this is my conduit to go do that. And maybe that would mean, would I go to law school and become an agent? Well, I always wanted to become an agent, but when then I realized I had to go to law school, like I didn't want to do that. That wasn't happening. And then maybe I would latch on to a team or league or something like that. And that was still like part of the thought process after my time at Maryland had finished, but opportunities weren't there. I actually did have a job in the Macy's Executive Development Program right out of school. And fairly prestigious program. The way that works is that you essentially work in a storefront for 2 years before moving on to a corporate role, and you kind of like learn the ropes and things like that. I lasted 2 days. For the first time in my life, I actually quit something. I didn't see. I wasn't in a place where I felt comfortable with that being my life. That just wasn't for me. And then I was left without a job. And that's what ultimately led me to starting my own business on Shopify, a sunglasses company that I called Brooktide. That took me a summer of going back and forth with suppliers in Taiwan and figuring out how to tinker with this platform that I knew some HTML very light from high school. And then over the course of a year where I finally got product and I launched the business, and then it grew basically from what was the wild west of influencer marketing, and I got folks that today have millions of followers that I never paid a dime, just gave free product, and they promoted the business, and great. And that in itself grew over time. As I was growing that business, I started working at a company called Steiner Sports. Steiner is the largest autographed sports memorabilia company of its kind in the world. I started there as the company's first full-time hire dedicated to social and digital marketing. We're running social media for the brand as well as for the founder, Brandon Steiner. In that role, even though it was working for a company, one of the great things about it was that I had a lot of control to make my day, to figure it out. What can we do? Because there was no precedent set of what had been in place prior. And we were able to see some tremendous growth from that. A couple of million followers within my first few years there, which had a direct impact on subscriber growth for email marketing and ultimately sales for the business, and a whole lot certainly that we can get into there. But um, as I was there, as I was building up my own business, a friend of a friend would need help. They're building a website. They decided to start a business. It became more of a formalized thing when I became a Shopify partner, and we're in their network and starting to get inquiries for people to build their websites or to run email marketing or things like that. I never really got to the point, to answer your question, of thinking like, oh, this is going to be my career. This is what I'm going to do. In fact, I still kind of had this bug in my head of, you know what, I'm going to latch onto a pro team. Like, I'm kind of in sports and I'm seeing athletes all the time and I'm enjoying that and that's fun. And then it sort of slowly transitioned as, candidly, I started to make more money doing this thing, like helping to market businesses. And funny enough, I actually just spoke to her recently, and I always give her shout outs on podcasts. If I had to point to one sort of moment that was a little bit of a spark for me, my old partner manager at Shopify, her name is Lauren Helstab. She was with Shopify for a while, and I think it's since moved on. But um, she said to me one day, "What would it take for you to, leave the job and kind of do this, full time?" And that was the first time that I had even ever considered the thought. It just wasn't a thing. And I said, like, I don't know, like 4 times what I'm making right now, whatever the number was at the time. And then over the next, I think it was about 2 years, eventually I was still in the full-time job, but making more money with this work just on the side. But even then, I still had the fear of taking the full-time leap. I couldn't bring myself to like give up my salary, give up my benefits, give up the security, um, to go all in on this. But then Steiner Sports was bought out by Fanatics. Fanatics decided we're going to get into the memorabilia game. Obviously, they're a tremendously large company in the sports license goods. And that kind of forced my hand, because at that point I said, I could try to go find another job, or I could not commute anymore, because I was going from Jersey to Westchester, hour and a half each way if I'm lucky, every day for 5.5 years. If I wanted to find another job, I'd probably have to end up going to Lower Manhattan or Brooklyn or something like that. I could just work from home and figure this thing out and continue to build on what we were building. And that's the route that I took. And so I've been super, super lucky to be around for certain moments in digital marketing and Shopify and e-commerce and this whole world that I kind of live and breathe every day. Things that I was able to latch onto, different growth moments to help grow our business. And it's been a fun ride for the last 5 years in full, and excited for what the next 5 years brings.
Yeah, and you've done some amazing things since you launched your business. So kudos to you on that. One of the topics that I always bring up when it comes to launching your own business as an entrepreneur are challenges. So we know that it isn't a clear path, and there are always challenges along the way. Could you share one or two significant challenges that you faced in developing
Absolutely.
your business?
Forget facing right now, currently, as we speak. The last 5 years, we had seen tremendous growth year over year. Every year, things have been kind of like flying pretty high. The last year's been difficult. We had our best year ever in 2023, and this year we are significantly off from that, from a revenue perspective for the company. Is it a bad thing? Well, not necessarily. The way that I've set up the business, I'm the only W-2. Everybody on my team, we have a team of 25 as a contractor. Some folks that I pull into a project based on when there's a need, and then others that are doing like maybe 35, 40 hours a week or so. But that's just how we've structured things, and they're doing more regular work. But and margins are pretty healthy for me. So I'm still doing fine. We're still doing fine. Very fortunate and thankful for everything that we have. But at the same time, like, we haven't seen the growth that we've been accustomed to the last 5 years. And I've seen that across the board for other agencies. Everybody that I talk to, every agency owner, where things are quite difficult in this world. And is that because of macroeconomic effects? Yes. Is it because of now there's more fish in the sea, more service providers? Yes. Are there now less people that are looking for services? Forget the macroeconomic effects, but just how the market has matured. There's what 2-3 million people that are on Shopify now. So more people have an awareness of Shopify. If you're starting an online business, you're going to do it on Shopify. So there's less migrations over from other platforms. Same thing when it comes to, let's say, email marketing, where we're heavy into Klaviyo. That's kind of our platform of choice, and we are higher up within their partner program, and have a lot of really, really cool things with that partnership. But everybody's sort of aware of Klaviyo now, at least in the e-commerce space. And so there are less migrations, there's less projects, there's less people for looking for help. There's folks that over time have said, hey, what if we took this in-house? Could we spend less? Or folks that are just satisfied with doing less. So a lot of really unique challenges, and specifically over the last year, where I've taken thousands of phone calls over the last 10 years, and discovery with different brands, and different folks to talk to, and seeing where we could potentially work with them. And in the past, I'd say a lot of things that maybe used to have been a one call close type of situation, like we're going to talk half hour, something like that, and you're going to decide basically at the end of that time, like whether or not you're going to move forward. Today, it's a very different process. Brands have been much more have held much more scrutiny against the service providers that they're talking to, which is fine. It's well within their right. But at the same time, instead of like one call close, it's gone to, well, let's have an intro call. Let's have another call. Let's have 3 more calls that are going to be all with the founders of the business. And let's, repeat ourselves over the course of 3-hour-long phone calls. And then let's request that you do an audit of our entire marketing stack and say that we're not even going to consider you if you don't give us this for free, because everybody else that we're talking to is giving us this for free. And then you cave and do this for free, even though I'm very publicly anti-free work. And then you do the audits, you do the screen recordings, you do the delivery of a report, you do the review, hey, we need another couple of weeks to review it again. You do another follow-up call. 2 months go by, and then you never hear from somebody again. And then maybe you're lucky if you get a response. And again, certain things are well within a company's right, but at the same time, it's like they're absolutely killing. A lot of folks are just absolutely killing service providers lately. I'm just seeing that so often. And so, what are some of the ways that we're trying to combat that? Well, some of the things that we've done over the course of the last year, where yes, I have generally been very anti-free work, but we'll do things like we'll hold strategy sessions with folks that are on a paid basis. But hey, if you move forward with us, we're going to credit that back on your first invoice, for if they're signing up for recurring marketing services. Um, or when folks are asking for certain things, we'll give it to them, but we'll give a little bit more of a structure than what we may have done over the course of the past year, so that we're not overextending ourselves and spending between 10 and 15 hours between my time and folks on my team to be able to just try to win a piece of business. It's just like how we have to try to balance things these days. And that's been, again, a daily active sort of challenge that I'd say in the last 3 months has gotten a little better than maybe the prior 9, but very specifically since about August of 2023 is when like we felt like a very specific shift in the market. But again, that makes sense. Like, I use like Klaviyo as a comparison. Klaviyo's partner program is tremendous. I love them. We have a great relationship and working on the platform for 8 years. At the start of the pandemic, for example, when everybody thought the world was literally ending, and businesses are moving things online and they're trying to market more, and advertising's harder because of iOS 14.5. So let me try to put a re-emphasis on email marketing again, as if where like email marketing wasn't dead, it didn't go anywhere. At the time, there was a couple hundred partners within their ecosystem. Now 6,000, something like that. They say 5,000, 6,000, whatever the number is. So it's just those are the challenges of and just one. I could go all day, but certainly with any business, whether it's your own, whether you are an entrepreneur building your own thing, or if you're working at a 9 to 5, every business has challenges. So that's just something that you have to go in with the expectations that, hey, this is what's happening, and how can we operate to combat what's going on.
Yeah, so you never take a negative approach to those challenges. Just face them straight on. That's what it sounds like you're doing, right?
I mean, that's my only choice at
Yeah,
the end.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's true, right? To be successful, you have to. So I know we talked about this before the interview today, but you have put yourself into a very unique niche within your business. So I'm going to ask the question, what sets you apart from your competitors?
One of the things that I really love, and I get a lot of questions like this a lot, like what sets you apart, or what types of businesses, or like your ICP, the types of folks that you're typically working with. I think what's really unique about us is that we're not entry level service providers, but we're pretty nimble in terms of how we're structured, to be able to service many different types of businesses across different areas. So what I mean by that is, I'll work with a startup, a kid out of college like I was, starting a business out of their parents' basement, or we have been really fortunate to work with a lot of household names, good logos, we'll say, even ones that you don't see when you go to our website, and why is that able to happen? So a lot of service providers in our space tout niche down, focus on one thing. If you want to do email marketing, do email marketing. If you want to do advertising, advertising is your thing. If it's site design and development, that's your thing. All those three things I just mentioned are things that we cover, and things that I'm confident in us being really, really proficient at. That stems from my own experience in doing that for a brand, a large scale company, doing that for my own brand, and then now working with hundreds of others on the agency side of things, in helping them to grow their businesses. A lot of other service providers in our world don't have the experience on both sides of the fence, where they could do a custom developed storefront, but they might not be running your email marketing, and vice versa. And we are happy to do both, because there are so many businesses that are out there. The ones that a lot of these larger SaaS companies will qualify as like SMBs, small businesses. I put in air quotes for anybody that's just listening to audio, but maybe they're in the $1 to $5 million a year range. It's a really good business. And we really like to work with brands that are at that level, because there's some flexibility from a budgeting perspective in terms of A, paying us, B, spending on advertising, and just, hey, is there traction? Is there room for growth? And again, with the way that we're structured, because like something can be more consultative, something can be um, more of a, or more involved, like extension of their marketing team, or we can function essentially as their marketing team. That, for the folks that we've worked with, has been attractive for them in the past.
Great. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, really unique way of building your brand. So, again, kudos on that for describing that. Thank you. Um, Couple more questions. Work-life balance. It's a
What's
popular
that?
topic. I'm going to ask you, let's talk a little bit about that. Are you able to apply work life, you and your team members? You have 25 team members also. Is that addressed in your business?
Well, I'll go back to a little bit of the history of it first. So when I was still working full time and still kind of figuring out what I was doing with this consultative thing, and sometimes that meant like a fixed rate service package, and sometimes that meant doing like some hourly stuff with a really long standing client that we were super proud to work with. But I was doing like an hourly, I think it was about 40 hours a month. And so I would get home at like 7 o'clock, because I was commuting from Westchester to back to Jersey, and maybe 7:30 in some cases. And then there's a big launch for this brand, maybe the next day. And so then, shove something in my mouth to eat. My wife, who works in a school, going to sleep by like 8:30, 9 o'clock. By 8 o'clock, 8:30, I'm back on the computer and I'm plugging away. Now, even after I kind of did make the jump full time, then of course, 6 months later, COVID hits, and it was a weird time. But for me, a weird time, I think, different than a lot of other folks had. We were in sort of a unique position that, we were out of school, like my wife and I. We were out of school, so like we didn't have like that dynamic of like how COVID was impacting us. We didn't have kids yet, so we didn't have like that dynamic of like how are we surviving and like doing this and, keeping them sane and normal and everything, and I already liked working from home. So it was like, all right, here's an excuse for me to kind of just keep doing that. So it wasn't, aside from like the fear of, again, like the world ending and like the health concerns and all that aside, just the like my day to day on what I was doing to like get work done. I would work a lot, yes, but it felt very natural. It felt very like I'm not taxed maybe in some ways, but I don't look at that time as such like a negative thing.
Mhm.
Now, fast forward to today, I have two kids. We just moved into a house. Finally, took 5 years. Like we've got a lot of different things going on, and so how do I concentrate on like building the business, being a good dad, like doing all the things that I want to do with my family, like outside of work, um, and also dealing with the challenges that we talked about. The day to day things that maybe a year ago I didn't have to deal with. Like, so it's interesting. Like, I do try to structure my days as much as possible so that I'm not getting so incredibly overwhelmed. Though I still have my days. Every day I wake up at I try to wake up at 6. Sometimes it's a little later. I go down and work out. I did that today. I feel proud of myself for doing that today. Yesterday was actually a rare day where I didn't. I had to stay up late the day before. I was finishing something up until like midnight. I woke up late, then the kids were up, then I had to jump into something else because one of our team members was out that I had to be in on, working basically throughout the day yesterday. So from like 8:30 a.m. till about 6 o'clock when we ate, I didn't move from this chair that I'm sitting in. And then after the kids went to bed, then from about 8:30 till 11 o'clock, I was back in this chair. Most days, thankfully, these days are not like that, again, because of really structuring your time. I am such an advocate for exercise. Like, literally just do it. Like, I have like, I don't know what weird thing I have in my head that like forces me to do it and has forced me to do that basically every day for the last 15 years. Um, but I'm glad I have it. And that helps to keep me sane every day. And then everything that I'm doing work wise, like actually in the moment, like throughout the day, I do try to structure. I do try to do to-do lists and outline what I need to do and the things that I don't need to do, and making sure that somebody on the team is doing that, because a couple of years ago it was all me doing it. And then I do try to shut off by the afternoon, especially in the summer, and like being with the kids, being with the family, doing stuff. And work-life balance, does that exist? Yeah, you find what works for you. That's really what it is. There's no ideal that's out there. It's the thing that works for you.
And again, thank you for going into that, right? But I'm hearing that it's evolving a bit.
Yeah, it always
Yeah,
changes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, the exercise thing in the morning, that resonates with me. Good health is part of being successful. If your health is not good, can you fully dedicate your time to family and business? I know that's an interesting question, right?
Yeah, my friends of mine, they like to text me all the time, screenshots, like if they're friends with me on Peloton, and they text me like whatever streak like I'm on, and they're like, how are you doing this? And then like, of course, like yesterday was like literally the first day in like 5 months I did not do anything. And it's just fun. It's just like, to me, this is not like, however this is sounding, maybe this isn't the way that it's meant to sound. Like, it's not about like I'm not some like superior freak athlete. It's just, I know that the physical movement and working out for me is what gets my mind set, and of course my body set, like, so that I can just do what I need to do to work throughout the day. And
Sure.
I don't like working out in the morning. Like, it's not a good workout. It really isn't. Like, I prefer, if I could, to work out more like early afternoon. I like, performance wise, it's always better, always. But it's just not realistic with my schedule. So that's something I've had to shift over the years. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, whether anybody likes exercise or not to harp on it, but I really do think that it is like the most important thing for anyone, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're starting your own business and you're doing your own thing and you have to keep yourself motivated, or you're just going about your daily life and working a 9 to 5. Like, get on the bike, get outside and run, like lift weights, go swim laps, whatever it has to be, whatever works for you, but do
Sure.
something.
Sure. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'll step off my soapbox and stop preaching.
No, this has been great. So, one more question. So, what's the future look like for Ben and Zettler Digital?
Great question. And I don't know. The real answer is, yeah, I think there are a few different routes that this could go. I think this could continue to just kind of roll the way that it's been rolling over the last few years. I've had chats with different companies about acquisitions, merges, partnerships, what something like that might look like. The challenge is in most of those instances, not all, but most folks look for full-time employees, butts and seats, and it I don't have that. I just it's just a thing that doesn't exist for our business, and frankly, the way that we've got things set up is that I don't I don't need to do that. I don't need to sell and change my lifestyle and all of a sudden like have a boss again, which I've never wanted to do. Like my my father owns his own business still, even though he'll tell you it's time to retire. My grandfather owned his own business. My great grandfather owned his own business. So that this was whether I realized it at the time that it really started, but I thought about this a lot now. Like I feel great doing this. So I could definitely see this kind of just being the thing for a long time. That doesn't mean like not shifting, not expanding our set of services and staying up with the times and with the market and where things go and like all of that. That's more on like, hey, the day-to-day of the business, but I'm happy with where things are for sure. And we're super lucky with, what with how the last few years have gone and I'm pretty happy.
Fantastic. Well, we've come to the end of our time today, Ben, but I just want to say thank you again for joining us. Your story is a great one. How can people get in touch with you and learn more about you and your business?
Yep. So I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. Guess I'm not supposed to call it Twitter, but I'm going to call it Twitter. It's just at Ben Zettler. ZettlerDigital.com is our website. If there is anybody out there that is looking for support with branding, design development for a website, e-commerce, email, SMS, advertising, social, like those are all the things that we do.
Mhm.
And I'd love to have conversations with folks, but yeah, I'm just a social comment away and love to find people, meet people, engage with people. So I'm there.
Okay. Well, that's the end of today's episode. To everyone watching, again, this is Jerry Cavella, and this has been From Dreams to Reality, a Business Tale podcast. I look forward to seeing everyone during our next episode. Ben, thank you again, and everyone have a great day.